My name is Shelby Pierce. So I was born January 15th, 1984, here in Sioux City, Iowa at St. Luke's Hospital. I specialize in doing participatory consensus building. Yeah, so back in 2019, I was working at Pico & Company, local investment advisory firm. I was an executive assistant there. I don't know. It's interesting because of the whole investment advisory world, right? Like we were paying attention to the news and things that could really disrupt financial markets. Actually, my last in-person meeting, I remember having such a sense of like almost panic around the fact that people needed to still keep meeting, and what kind of an urgency and fear of what would happen if everything came to a full stop. Like if people couldn't access other people for connection. I just have like so many people in this community that I really love and I love bumping into and I love interacting with, and I don't have their phone number on my cell phone. Like we just know that we bump into each other at Coffee Works or wherever, right? Like it's more of like the fabric. To me, there seemed to be such an outpouring of generosity at that time. I remember being home at the house with Austin, and Austin telling me, oh, Maria Bamford's gonna do, one of our favorite comedians, Maria Bamford's gonna do a live stand-up on Zoom. Like, do you wanna, like, I think he got a tweet or something about it. And like, we signed up for it, and then there we were later in that afternoon in a Zoom room with 100 people watching Maria Bamford test out her material. Really important thing for us to talk about too is like the murder of George Floyd happening, and the kind of social unrest and how to handle that through what we were in, right? This communicable disease. And I remember when we found out about George Floyd, when Austin and I both found out about it, it took us the better part of a day before we could actually watch the video of it. And then we had a moment like we just gotta watch. We've got to sit down and we've got to watch it. And we sat on our sun porch and watched that horrific, awful video. And just the shift, just the sadness and the grief and the frustration. And one of the things that really complicated that time in the Black Lives Matter movement at that moment, for Austin and me specifically, was we were like, we don't want to spread this COVID. We don't want to spread this. I think protesting I think it's important. I think that expressing like frustration and the ability to do that it's so important. It's so important. And what was at risk at that time, like an already vulnerable community, that point on started to shape my summer to where COVID was present, but having to deal with this other really major thing in the presence of COVID, which is now just what our life feels like. I had a situation with someone that I had considered really close to me that had really shifted during lockdown on their political views, which is fine, but it really caught me off guard. I couldn't get a sense of how many people in our community had made a similar change, like where it felt like a night and day shift from being in a space of like, oh, that's so hard, how frustrating, to Black Lives Matters is a hoax. Like that kind of a shift. And that interaction with that person really shook me, really shook me to where I didn't, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and I do have a brother who lives here in Sioux City, but my parents at the time were living in Arizona. And for me, there are times, especially around racial issues, it's like I've got resiliency up to a point, but then it's like I need to be with my roots and be with my family, the people who I really ground into. And that happened for me. And so in July of 2020, I went to Phoenix for 2 weeks to be, just specifically to be around family, to really keep processing what was going on.
Support for Facing a Changed World an oral history of the COVID-19 pandemic, comes from the Margaret Ann Martin Everest Foundation, the Kind World Foundation, Humanities Iowa, the Friends of Siouxland Public Media, and listeners like you.